Madam Vice President, members of the European Parliament, Monsieur le Commissaire, cher Pierre Moscovici, it's a great pleasure and honor for me to be here today to talk about the 16th annual European Parliament debate on EIB activity, particularly as this year, two reports have been drafted on the financial activities of the EIB in 2015. I would like to thank the rapporteurs, Mr. Kyrtsos and Mr. Ali, as well as their colleagues for their thorough work. I notably appreciate the explicit support of both reports to the EIB's work as a catalyst for financing solid, sound, public and private long-term investments, as well as the acknowledgement of the bank's important role outside of the European Union. But issues raised in the reports are also relevant for the future, so if you agree, I will not limit myself only to 2015. Investment is recovering in the European Union, but large differences in regional and sectoral investment performance remain, and we need additional initiatives and projects in order to address this investment gap. Taking into consideration the current political and economic climate, it is unlikely that in the future we will have more or even the same amount of resources available not only to support investment, but in fact for EU priorities in general. In addition, public funding and traditional instruments such as grants will not be able to solve all the existing and new challenges Europe faces. We must therefore find intelligent ways to maximize the efficiency and effectiveness of available public resources, namely by crowding in private investors and making full use of the capacity of financial institutions, consequently leveraging public money and making more funds available for the real economy. I insist on the wording, the real economy, because this is where we work. We are not a monetary institution, we are a real economy institution. And this is why our work, I believe, matters. Firmly convinced that this calls for a further use of financial instruments, the EIB Group, as the EU bank, stands ready to identify new areas where financial instruments can complement and probably release EU grants, and to continue to implement such instruments for the benefit of the entire EU. Consequently, we vest our hopes on the ongoing revision of financial regulation and 15 sectorial legislative acts, the so-called Omnibus, which aims inter alia at simplifying and streamlining the implementation of financial instruments and budgetary guarantees. To give you one concrete example, once adopted, the Omnibus will facilitate the essential combination of EFSI with European structural and investment funds, which might simultaneously improve the absorption of ESI funds and bring more EFSI financing to some countries. Ladies and gentlemen, as highlighted in the reports, EIB's activities have contributed to sustainable growth and employment in Europe and to stability in our neighborhood. I'm particularly proud the EU bank continues to be the world leader in climate-related finance, as well as of the effect our financing has on young people. In 2016 alone, we financed 46 education projects to the tune of 3.7 billion euros, improving conditions for 890,000 students. Also last year, EIB Group financing sustained 4.4 million jobs in SMEs, which is where most young people find work. And since its launch in 2013, the EIB's Skills and Jobs Investing for Youth program has provided more than 37 billion euros towards projects that support jobs and better skills for young people, and I strongly support what Commissioner Moscovici has just said about the need to continue our engaged work in the fight against youth unemployment. These concrete results show the impact of our work on Europe's future. Allow me to give you another concrete example where our innovative financing products make an impact, in this case in a country hit by the financial crisis. 2 weeks ago, we activated the Trade Finance Facility 2.0 that will benefit Greek SMEs and midcaps. This facility will enable Greek banks to provide trade and export finance services to the Greek SMEs and midcaps at a time when no commercial lines with private banks are available. Through this facility, the EIB acts as a secure bridge between international and domestic banks, supporting trade and export finance and therefore having a direct concrete impact on the business of SMEs and as such in the real economy. Talking of innovative instruments, and in view of the forthcoming parliamentary reports on EFSI implementation and EFSI 2.0, I would like to take the opportunity to mention EFSI and how it can finance investment and trigger growth and the creation of jobs. EFSI has been a success so far. To date, we can be proud that almost 184 billion euros in total investments have been mobilized. That is to say, 58% of EFSI's initial target of 315 billion euros. We are very well on track. Over 400,000 SMEs are to benefit from enhanced access to finance thanks to EFSI support, and we have already approved 22 investment platforms, most of them being the result of a very fruitful cooperation with national promotional banks. Let me emphasize that in qualitative terms, EFSI is not business as usual for EIB. As a matter of fact, it has changed our DNA. 2 out of 3 promoters of projects which benefit from EFSI are new clients to the bank, and this clearly demonstrates how much EFSI has changed the EIB group. I'm aware that additionality, as we've just heard, is central to EFSI, and that we need to do more to communicate and demonstrate it better based on concrete examples of projects. Eligible projects rest on market failures or suboptimal investment situations, and they are only selected if they would not have been financed by the EIB group in the same period or the same extent without the EFSI support as specified in the EFSI regulation. Another important aspect is geographical balance, and the latest breakdown shows that EFSI favors many smaller EU countries and those hit hard by the economic crisis. I sometimes still read statistics from the very, very first beginning of the EFSI implementation which show a different direction. But nowadays it can be clearly said that EFSI projects are particularly where EFSI projects are needed most, and we are very proud of that. In any case, I can assure you that we continue to work on this, working with a regional and local focus to facilitate EFSI support across the EU. But the central role we play in EFSI does not mean that we retreat from the rest of the world. On the contrary, out of the 84 billion euros of the EIB group financed in 2015, over 8 billion euros went outside the Union, directly contributing to the implementation of EU policies and standards. In recent years, the world has become more integrated and more challenging than ever before. Those external challenges and the EU's objectives beyond its borders are best met through a stronger and more integrated EU response, ensured by an enhanced coordination and joint action between the European Commission, the Member States, and the EU Bank. The EIB's external lending mandate is indisputably the most effective and efficient EU financing instrument and a powerful multiplier of EU external action. Its guarantee fund and portfolio structure allow the EU Bank to support investments of around 30 to 40 times the EU budget amount provisioned for the guarantee, thereby delivering concrete results and impact in third countries at minimal cost to the EU budget. We are very grateful for the open and cooperative attitude of the Parliament on this issue, especially for ensuring that sufficient resources are attributed to this instrument, which will allow the EU Bank to continue its global level activities on behalf of the Union. Also, looking to the future, we should establish a clear complementarity and harmonization of the different instruments that the European Union employs externally, namely the external investment plan the Commissioner just mentioned, the external lending mandate of the EIB, the resilience initiative for countries affected by migration, and even the G20 initiative for Africa. Overlaps should be avoided and coordination should be demonstrated. In relation to the EIB's economic resilience initiative, which comes on top of our normal lending to Africa and the neighboring countries, a brief reference to let you know it is already on the ground and is delivering results. Honourable members of Parliament, both reports stress the importance that the EIB continues to be a financial institution of good practice, while I can assure you that we do put very strong emphasis on being a leading financial institution when it comes to issues such as due diligence, compliance, good governance, transparency, and accountability. We are continuously in contact with other international financial institutions, NGOs, and relevant authorities to ensure that we apply best banking practice. Europe's citizens expect and deserve parliamentary oversight for their bank. I say this as a former parliamentarian with pleasure myself. Last year, I had the opportunity to address the plenary, the Econ Committee, and the Cont committees. There were also numerous hearings with other members of the Bank's Management Committee and services. We are ready to even expand our close cooperation with the European Parliament. In preparation of this plenary debate, we also sent a state of play on the recommendations tabled through the previous report to the former rapporteur, Mr. Perinsky. The respective committee secretariats and the MEPs were closely involved in the drafting process. The reports we are discussing today suggest that this oversight consists of a more structured exchange, and although in principle I have no objection to discussing the idea, I believe we must discuss how future arrangements might work. We are ready to engage in this dialogue. Let me therefore conclude by assuring that the EU Bank stands obviously ready to live up to its institutional responsibilities, both operationally and in terms of reporting, and we welcome our regular exchange with this Parliament on our activities and their impact on the ground. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to the debate.
Köszönöm szépen ezeket a nyitó gondolatokat.